Hey guys, welcome to Box Office Addict, episode I don't know, because this has been infrequent and exciting and crazy over the last few weeks. Here's the thing about the box office right now that we have to talk about, people. Please follow me, children. I am the Pied Piper. Follow my flute. Look at this right now. Look where we are in the box office. Okay? Shazam and Ant-Man, if you can see here, are both underperforming. In particular, Shazam is a just disaster. There's no way around it. It's a freaking disaster. But look at the films that are doing well. John Wick 4, Creed 3, Scream 6. This is fantastic. We have franchise sequels that are still relatively low budgeted. They've kept their continuity within their franchise for the most part. Obviously, Scream and Creed's continuities all over the place. And they're all making money. And it seems like we're finally getting out of this trend of it has to be a superhero comic book movie to actually make an impact on the box office. It's starting to almost be like the opposite, where it's embarrassing right now with these bombs. And I don't think it's going to end here. James Gunn can praise it, but I really think The Flash is a bomb waiting to happen. I don't think the hype is there. Um, Honestly, and maybe maybe Marvels will do well, but I'm not feeling like that has a lot of hype. People are gonna be like, Captain Marvel made 1.1 billion. I don't think that audience is there, man. I really don't. Everything Everywhere All at Once got an expanded release, so it's now at 126 million worldwide, which before I think it was at like just 107. So that film's actually done really well. Puss in Boots 2 is at 475 million, made 184 mil domestic. I think it's about to finish its run. It'll probably wrap up at about 185, but still, this movie held extremely well. But I'm probably not going to talk about it anymore. I think it's kind of finished. Same with Avatar 2. I don't see it doing much more than 2.3 billion, which is phenomenal. I wish I could have covered the weeks building up to this because it was really exciting in weekend 2, 3, 4, and 5. But yeah, I don't see this making much more money either. But it doesn't need to. That's an insane box office run. I mean, who knew that it would come within like $500 million dollars of the first movie? And here's the thing, this movie didn't get a release in Russia, and it was released in China during lockdowns. So we didn't see the full potential of this movie. I think 2.5 billion was in play. Champions continues to do poor business at 13 million. Jesus Revolution is at 49 million. That movie should be able to cross 50 million within the next week or so. I don't think it has much more momentum left. Cocaine Bear continues to decline. It's at 62 million. 65 million seems like the stopping point. It maybe can make 100 million worldwide, but it seems to be just losing a lot of steam. Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania is just a disaster. It's at 209 million this current weekend. I think what is it, 2 or 3 million. So it's almost done at the box office. It doesn't look like it'll surpass the second Ant-Man movie's 220. Didn't that make like 225 or something like that? It certainly won't outgross it worldwide at 622 million. And even beyond that, I don't know if this is going to outgross the first Ant-Man because it still needs to make like $43 million to do that. So this is pretty insane. Honestly, this couldn't have gone worse for them. 65, starring Adam Driver, is at 49 million worldwide. I don't know what the budget for this movie is. I'm assuming it was at least 50 million because of CGI. But overall, not bad, like considering the kind of movie it is and that it got bad reviews. Scream continues to drop. It dropped 51.5%. It's at 8.4 million. It's at 89 mil domestic, 139. So the previous film made 140 million worldwide. So this will pass that probably by tomorrow or at least Tuesday, and it should be able to make 100 million. It's going to scratch to 100 million. 105, 110 at the max is the final total, I think. At this point, it's not making 120. It's just not holding well enough. It should be able to make. I guess Scream just doesn't have a big international audience, and it never really did. None of the Scream movies were huge international hits. The only movie in only the first two movies in the franchise made like 100 million. Even with inflation, obviously they made quite a bit. The first one would have made over 200. But still, I think a lot of this just has to do with people aren't loving this movie. It got okay reviews. There was some hype because of the Jenna Ortega factor, but I don't think people are falling in love with this movie. I don't think it's like a huge crowd pleaser. And that's the only reason I don't think it's making more money. Because if this film was awesome, I think this could have made like 130 million domestic. Shazam! Fury of the Gods dropped 67.8%. This was totally expected. I can't believe it didn't drop more. It's at 9.7 million in weekend two from its 30 million opening. This will not make 100 million. I don't know if it'll make 80 million. It will not make even 200 million worldwide. I like how the director David Sandberg, I think his name is, and Zachary Levi have come out and been like, well, we think it's a good movie. It's weird that the critics rating is 50 something percent and the audience rating is 86. I've never had that before. Can we get over this like misconception that the audience rating on a website means anything? As if that's do you remember it used to be the opposite? It used to be the audience rating didn't matter and they wouldn't report on it in the press, or we had to go off cinema scores. And then the Rotten Tomatoes rating is what mattered. It mattered what critics said. Now, if you've noticed in the last few years, it's shifted post like The Last Jedi, where now filmmakers and people are pointing out the audience rating and they're like, well, I got bad reviews, but I have 85%. What the fuck is the audience? Who's rating this movie? Nobody's seeing this movie. Think about it if you did the math, if this movie making this amount of money, how many people actually went and saw this film? It's not a lot. So all that tells me is that it's either DC fans or people that are in a certain fan base, fans of the first movie, and they go there and they just rate the movie like 10 or 9, and then that's the ratings because they already have the audience rating up like the day the movie comes out when nobody's seen it. So then you go, oh, look, it has 80 something percent from the audience. What audience? They're acting as if people are loving the movie, but critics didn't like it. Well, if people were loving the movie, how in the hell did it only open to 30 million and then drop 67% in the second weekend? So I don't believe that there's any evidence or some kind of bullshit that 86% of people like this movie. Or 86% of people who like this movie, it's like 100,000 people. So it's too small of a size for data to actually be right. So these things are so frustrating. Like, look at the audience rating. It doesn't matter, dude. Your movie fucking bombed. So people aren't liking it, and critics aren't liking it. It's a double whammy. Because if the word of mouth was that great and people were coming out saying, dude, Shazam! Fury of the Gods is awesome, people just don't get it. And this always happens with DC movies. Like, DC fans, I'm not seeing all these people trying to stan Ant-Man and the Wasp and try to defend it too much. They've just accepted its failure. But these DC fans, they're always like in denial of just how disastrous Warner Brothers has handled things. They should be pissed off. They should be mad. But instead, they just keep taking the abuse. Oh, Jonathan Majors has 3 hits right now. So Ant-Man and the Wasp, he's the bad guy, hit. Creed 3, he's the bad guy, hit. And then today, hitting women apparently is number 3. So he's an actual villain. I didn't know if he had to go method acting for his character in Creed 3, and he decided to practice on a female or something. But I mean, to be fair, let me say this: this is all alleged. I don't want to be sued. He's saying that he didn't do any of this stuff, and it's a woman lying about his career right now. So this could all be dropped in court. So let me just say I'm just joking for fun, although abuse is not something to joke about. But it's pretty insane that this guy who's like the thing Hollywood's trying to push right now. He even has a movie that was bought out of Sundance that's supposed to be a big deal, magazine something. And then like it's like within a month, it's like, oh, arrested for assault. Like, holy shit, dude. And then people are trying to associate this with other things. And on the same timeline, Kanye now likes Jews again after watching 21 Jump Street. I don't know why Jonah Hill and 21 Jump Street in particular made him feel this way, but it did. So Jonathan Majors, man, he's having a major issue right now. This is either the most insane recent fake allegation, or this is the biggest career implosion I've seen in a long time, where somebody's at the top of the mountain and then they just fell off. The movie's still doing very well. We're at 140 mil domestic. I think 160 to 170 is in play. I think it's going to go past its projections of 150. It's still not doing great internationally. This movie was at 96 million last week and is at 105 million. So there just isn't a huge international audience for the Rocky franchise. This is still done better internationally than the previous two. In fact, this is now the highest grossing film of the Creed movies. But it's still hard to see this making $300 million. I don't think it's going to reach it. And they're going to have to question that with the budgets and release of these movies in the future. Because this one I think cost 75 million, and they're going to have to say, even though they made a profit, are we willing to start getting into the 110 million dollar budgets with the series if we can't break 300 million worldwide? Because if 250 is your topping, and it seems like 270 might be where this ends up, 275, 280 at the best. Um, I don't know. They got to figure out a way to make this more of an international franchise. And it could just be that boxing isn't as big worldwide cinematically as it is in America. Not sure. But anyway, yeah, Creed 3 holding on very well. And speaking of franchises, the reason I thought John Wick 4 was going to open so well, despite the runtime being so excessive at 2 hours and 49 minutes, and this being the fourth film in a franchise, was because of the Creed opening. When I saw Creed 3 open to 58 million, I thought, well, the last John Wick movie opened to 56 million. I just don't see if Creed opens this well how John Wick won't open even higher than that. And that came out to be true. Not only that, I wasn't expecting the reviews. This is the best reviewed John Wick film. It's the most expensive John Wick film. It's the longest John Wick film. And now in its opening weekend, 73.5 million opening weekend, 137 million worldwide. This movie has a $100 million budget. So for a full breakdown, we're going to go through the whole Wick franchise and kind of explain how this happened with Chad Stahelski and David Leitch and everybody who worked on this. So the first film came out in 2014 and had a $20 million budget, opened to 14 million, made 43 mil domestic, 86 worldwide. So barely broke even at best. Did well on home video. A lot of us didn't know if there was going to be a John Wick 2. And then word started to come about. And then out of nowhere, John Wick 2 had hype. You could tell that people were ready for the franchise. This movie gets better reviews than the first movie, opens to 30 million, ends up making 92 mil domestic, 175 million worldwide. Huge hit. And really felt like an instant classic and that John Wick had become an icon. Then we get into Parabellum. That's still so silly. $75 million budget like Creed 3. But this movie has a 56 million opening, also similar to Creed 3. Ends up making 171 mil domestic, 328 million worldwide. That's just a huge jump every movie in the franchise. Because it's not just the domestic numbers, the fact that like each John Wick film's international numbers have gone up. And here we are again with this. I mean, this has to outgross John Wick 3. It is 96% on Rotten Tomatoes, 78 on Metacritic. I just don't see this not making $200 million domestic, at least. It could make more than that. This could make like 230, 240. But right now, let's say 200 million domestic with that opening weekend. At least 300 million worldwide, but I think 400 million, if not more, honestly, is in play. So we're just straight up talking about a bona fide hit franchise right now. Chad and Keanu said they want to take a break after this movie. I think that would be wise. I think leave people wanting more and leave on a high note. You've now made 4 films that were consistently well received and made money, and your franchise grew movie to movie. I mean, the only thing analogous to this is like the Mission Impossible franchise with Tom Cruise, the second half of that franchise, where they were able to really build up a new audience off the stunt work and Tom Cruise's reputation and Christopher McQuarrie, and then each film started doing really well. And now it feels like the new Mission Impossible movie is going to make $1 billion. So kudos to them. Kudos to Lionsgate. Honestly, this is their only franchise right now that means anything. Kudos to having the balls to release a 3-hour John Wick movie. I'm still shocked that this movie's that long. And kudos to everyone. I mean, this is a big deal for Keanu. I know he already had his comeback, but he hasn't had a movie open this well in a long time. I mean, this is I think the second biggest opening of his career behind The Matrix Reloaded, which opened at like 90 million back in like 2002 or whatever. But this is the first movie he's had in a long time that's had like a massive opening weekend. This is a good opening weekend. Like if Shazam had opened to 73 million, they'd be like, "Hey, that's pretty good for this movie, what we were expecting." But for $100 million movie, that's fantastic. And an R-rated movie, those are just phenomenal numbers all around. So this really solidifies Keanu being a movie star again, although it was already solidified, but kind of in a minor way. We're like, oh, well, 300 million's a lot for a John Wick movie. Now we're at the point that this is just a lot of money for a franchise, any franchise that's out there. So I don't know. I'm just kind of stunned by this. It's hard to even have an analysis of this because I just I've never seen anything like this where each film had a better opening weekend. It somehow doubled the original film. It somehow was liked by the fans. Although people disagree, the third act, the middle of the third film slow or the world building gets too goofy, all that stuff. Although a lot of people are loving this one. This is very praised, even by long-term fans or people that felt like 3 was a letdown. The original writer who created this franchise didn't even work on this film, and it's this well received. And they're talking about spin-offs and whatnot, but this could very well, looking back, be the peak of this franchise, just being this successful. But like I said, I've never seen anything where each film just sort of gradually did better and just became more famous as it went along. It's really unique, and really special. And I'm glad that post COVID, this movie was able to find its audience and come out, and it seemed to have come out at the right time. I don't even think it's going to have that much competition, um, for the kind of movie it is for a while. So I could see this performing really well. And once again, it's just really nice to see that in Creed at number one and number two, and Shazam and Ant Man fall. And I'm not hating on the filmmakers or the people who made Shazam and Ant Man. Like I like Peyton Reed. I think Bring It On's an awesome movie. But it is nice that I don't know. It feels like these kinds of movies are the movies that need to be coming out to help theaters and not Disney and Warner Brothers just churning out $200 million movies that look like garbage that we don't want to go see. Instead of these films that both have nice cinematography, they're directed by people that have been on the franchise for a while. Their budgets, once again, aren't like $200 million. I mean, there's just a lot of things to go off of here. Likable actors, Donnie Yen, Michael B. Jordan, Ian McShane. There's just a lot. There's a lot of qualities going on here, and the fact it's United Artists and Lionsgate is really cool too. So the only detriment is I wish Sylvester Stallone could be enjoying this success of the Creed franchise. But yeah, man, do not doubt John Wick 4. There was a lot. I saw a lot of people kind of underselling this movie on forums, thinking it wasn't going to perform this well. And what we have to go off right now, what we're learning in 2023, those of us who do follow the numbers, is that these franchises that built up goodwill with their audiences are performing very well right now. The ones that have stayed kind of with what their fan base wants and has stayed with the same characters, they're performing very well right now. So you have to think this is a great sign for like Mission Impossible coming out with Tom Cruise. You just have to think that's going to be a huge hit. And some other movies coming out this year that have that same quality going for them. But this is great. I couldn't be more excited and happy for everybody who worked on this. So that's just really awesome. I don't think there's much else to cover here. So we'll just throw out the question here. What do you think is going to be the final domestic total of John Wick Chapter 4? Were you expecting an opening weekend this good? Because I was. Honestly, after a while, I started to think, yeah, 65 to 75 millions in play. I even thought in my head at one point 73 seemed like the right number, but that was weird. So where do you think it's going to end up? Please like and subscribe. Please, if you want any questions answered, please follow the Discord. My Discord has a section for the box office, and we do movie nights there on Fridays. We don't do it every Friday. Sometimes, like this Friday, I had plans, but we usually do stuff in there, and there's cool people in there hanging out. Sorry I haven't been making a lot of other content. I haven't been reviewing stuff or doing standalone videos. I have ideas for things and sort of things written. I just can't seem to put anything together right now. particularly for a video essay. I've been trying to figure some stuff out, something longer. But still, I will keep doing Box Office Addict. I'll keep breaking it down. It's been a really exciting few weeks with all these new movies coming out and not really knowing where things are going to go. And surprises, quite frankly. There's been a lot of pleasant surprises. And anyone who's been a fan or following the channel, once again, please follow me on Twitter, follow us on Discord, support the channel, and make sure to tune in every Sunday for the show so we can build the audience up and we can have more of a community here. And we can all just, share our thoughts and talk about movies together because that's what it's all about, right?